Hey, Hans from Request for Music here, and back again with the video for the F-SYN line of modules. And this time I'll be talking about the F-PERC module, which was one of the latest additions to the system. So we're looking at Voltage Modular, and I've put in F underscore here to filter all of the modules for the F-SYN out. And you can see that I have this PERC module in here, so I'll put that into the screen. And what you see is, let's see if I can actually zoom in. Oops, wrong one. Zoom in a bit. No, it doesn't work. What you'll see is that we have actually three things in there, three instruments, or instruments. It's a very simple kind of percussion module. It does not use samples. It just uses a normal sine wave and a sawtooth oscillator that you can mix by using a knob for that, and you can add some noise into it if you want it. And there's three lines. So I see or columns actually. One column being P1, percussion 1, percussion 2, percussion 3, and it just needs a gate to drive it, or anything that has a pulse. So you could also use probably a square wave low frequency oscillator or something like that. It has an input on the top, it has an output on the bottom, and you actually have the option of clicking on this orangey kind of text to put in your own word for that. And then each of those columns has a pitch setting, a wave setting, a decay, bend, the bend time, B time, noise, and a level. So actually all you needed to do was take a gate out into percussion instrument 1, put that into your output, and as soon as you tap the button, you'll hear some sound there. I don't know how hard it is, so put it a bit louder. So that's actually all there is to it. Are they identical? Yeah, in terms of the rest of the values, yes, but the pitch is different slightly for all of them. So the first one has a slightly lower range. This goes from 20 hertz up to 500 hertz. This one goes from 50 hertz to 1500 hertz, and the last one goes from 100 hertz to 7K, 7000 hertz. So there's a slight difference there, and that's because I intended the first one to be used as a kick, for instance, the next one for a snare, and the last one for something like a hi-hat or whatever. And so if I just reset it to whatever it was, I had the first one, which is a kick, and the kick depends on, as I said, the pitch, so I could go more down, could go more up, and it has this wave kind of thing. So it's not just a kick that you could use it for, but you could use it for slightly different stuff as well. You have the decay, so that goes from very short up to longer sounds. It has this bend. The bend was already on. The bend goes from a 0 in the middle to a minus 100% and plus 100%. So it means if I take a longer decay and I take my bend up and I take my bend time up, something like this happens. And if I take the decay down, then I get something like this, obviously. And if I take my bend down, it would go from a very low frequency, so I'll have to take my frequency up to let it hear what it does. So that's the bend thing. And then I can, with the noise, I can put noise in there. So, well, obviously when it's too long like this, that's not too good, but you can hear already that you could use something like this for a snare, for instance. And then next to the noise, obviously I have a level that I can set. So that's the first one. How does the second one sound out of the box, so to speak? That one is set a bit more to sort of a snare kind of thing. I can take my noise back a bit. I could take my pitch back a bit. I could maybe give it some bend in there. Take the decay back a bit to make it more snappy or something like that. Maybe take some more noise out and change something to the wave and so on. And the last one is obviously I need to attach my output as well. Is set at a quite high pitch at the moment, and it has a wave setting that involves more sawtooth. So let's go back to the sine wave and maybe take the noise out, and we have something that could be used as maybe even a bell or something like that. So I could take my decay up and I have this ringy kind of sound. So you got a couple of things like that that you could use, and that could be quite nice. And at least you have only one module width that you can use for 3 modules. For 3 sounds. Now, obviously, I can press this key all the time and do something like that. The other thing is that I could also use a sequencer to do that. So I'll get a sequencer out to run it, and maybe I'll zoom out just a bit so I can use the sequencer on the bottom like this, and zoom out just slightly more. So I'll take 3 sequencers, because I'm going to run each of those PERC instruments with a sequencer. So I'll take all of them out. And next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the gate output out of this to be able to run such an instrument. So like this, and I'll take the gate of the second one into the second, so the snare, so to speak, and the next into to this. So I'll take my normal gate of the keyboard out, and obviously I need to run those sequencers at the same time, and I'll do that by just saving it, because if I start those now, they would run in different times. And let's see. Oh, wasn't intending to use a transpose actually, because this doesn't work anyway. Taking the gate, I only have this first one connected, so I'll take all of the others out, and maybe I'll instead of going straight from this into the source, into the main output, I'll take the panner that I've also available within this F-SYN line, and I'll put my first one, and let's call it a kick, just for argument's sake. And I'll use the next one and call it a snare, and the last one I'll call it a hi-hat. Not quite sure if I get something that is really hi-hat like, but at least I'll put it in. I put my kick in the first channel of my panner, and use my snare to use it in the second one, and my hi-hat on the third one, and now I can just change the pan of it a bit. So I'll put not really right, but I'll put my snare a bit to the left, like sitting behind a drum kit, and if it was a hi-hat, I would probably have it more to the left even. And then I'll take my full output here. So, well, this is obviously not what I want to hear. So I'll first of all I'll switch those off for a while, and I'll do it a bit differently, because first of all I want to be able to run everything at the same time. So normally I would put them on play, then save a patch, and then load that patch again. So the sequences are started at the same time that way. But I need to do something else. I want to have not every step being run into the PERCussion, but I want maybe the first and the whatever. So I'll switch the steps to 16, so I have enough steps on everything, and I'll actually, I think I do it a bit differently. I'll set one up to start off with, and then copy that on. So using my shift key, I'll click on all of those other knobs. So I only keep the first one set for now, something like this. So that's, and then I'll copy this over 2 times. So I'll take the gate of this out to the second percussion and the gate of this out to the third percussion. And now if I save all of this, so do a save, and I'll save it within my F-SYN category. Where is it? F-SYN and or collection, and the category will be a PERC, and I'll call this demo 01. It's the first one that I'm making for this. So I'll do this, and now when I load this again, when I save it first, so if I start it now, this one will start first, then that one will come up, and that won't come up. So that's not really what I want. So I first of all, I save it again, save, yes, and go back and forth, and now they're all at the same spot, as you can hear. So I've got the kick, the snare, and the belly-like thing all running at the same time. One next thing that I want is that I want to be able to set the speed and the number of steps for all of these sequencers at the same time. And there's also a module that I created for that thing, or with that kind of thing in mind. That's the tools module. And the tools module has a couple of different options, but the first one is the volts setting. And so the only thing that it does is it sets or it outputs a volt, and actually I can use this to set the speed for this, set the speed for the second one, and set the speed for the third one at the same time. So now if I dial, and they're offset now again because of the speed. So let's save it once more. And obviously normally I would prepare that a bit more, but since I've done it now at the same time, I can do this. And I needed to save it again, so all of the sequences run at the same point again. And now when I dial this, I'm sort of deciding what the overall speed will be for all of those sequencers, just because it outputs just the normal voltage which goes into the speed. So I've got it like this, and say that I now wanted the kick to start. I maybe take off the those ones for the snare and for the bell. So I've got my kick on this first one, I got my snare in the second, and got my belly or hi-hat kind of thing that I want to make on the third one. So let's just create a kick pattern. So just do something like this. So now I've got my kick pattern, and then let's put on a snare. And I want the snare to be a bit more snappy. Something like this. And well, now all I need to do is switch on the step. So it's sort of having a, yeah, almost what was the name of the roll-on thing again? The TR-808 kind of thing, where you have 16 steps, and I've got it for all of the instruments that I want. And if I need more than the percussion instruments, and I needed some toms, or for instance, I could just put a next percussion module in there, set it to be sort of a tom, and have them arranged that way as well. So it's up to you how to work with it. Say that I take this and now start creating patterns for that. So something like this. take that down a bit and maybe instead put it more to the left and or to the right, and my snare more to the left, and take some reverb in there to have it sound a bit nicer. So take my reverb in, and instead of going here, I'm going to the reverb first. So take those out, take this in here, and put some reverb on there. And obviously the basic setting is far too high, so maybe dial this back. And I actually changed the labeling on the reverb because somehow I forgot to change the labels. So there were things like milliseconds in there which didn't make sense at all. It's actually sort of a galactic kind of reverb, so it means that I didn't put any size or level or whatever in. I've just put it from a 0% scale, which is a tiny space, up to humongous, so a very large reverb time. And the same goes for a damping, because damping, if I don't need damping, it's going to give you a lot of reverb, and if I put the damping up, it will indeed damp that sound a bit, as you can hear. And so if I want it in a smaller room, I'll just take something like this, maybe 4 to 5% of reverb, and the damping up to about 75 or 80%. And obviously I can also use the coloring, because now it uses a filter to only let through the or it filters out the highs, and if I wanted those in to have more effect on the bell kind of shape, I could take this in, and so maybe do something like this. And there's sort of a detuning in there as well. And at the end, of course, there's also a wet knob that you can use. So if I do something like this, and actually the reverb uses the code that Chris Neuberger used or had rewritten from the Air Windows original one. So that's what it uses. So thanks, Chris, for letting me use that code again. So that's in there. So now I've got at least some kind of room in there that I can use. And actually I could have also, and maybe I'll just do that, use the second one to connect to the number of steps. And if I now change the number of steps, you'll see that they all change. So now I get some strange rhythm with only 7 steps per kick, snare, and bell thingy that you could use. So you can actually go with the sequencer from at least 2 steps up to those 16. So it's up to you, and by having those tools available, it's very easy to set all of those at once, as you can see. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the PERC module actually. So if you combine that with lots of other stuff, first of all, I change it, because if I look at one of the sequences that I had created, there was something like this. And just to show you, this is a sequence that I created with sound and some percussion in there, and a bass and an effect that's running over it. And then I recreated that with the PERC module a bit. And sure, it sounds a bit different as well, because I filtered the hi-hat kind of thing in the other one. But in this case, I used just a percussion module, and you see that there's a lot less modules that now are used indeed for the percussion. So yeah, that's really what I wanted to show you for this percussion module, and I hope it works for you. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video afterwards. Okay, so have fun with it, and we'll meet later again. Cheers, bye bye.